And in a way, when you're done with the process of identity, you're not any longer involved with what I will come up saying that I've been caught and I should have this clarity or this permanent kind of state of anything. That doesn't have any power in me if it arises, and therefore it doesn't arise because it doesn't have the power. You see, it doesn't find
Yes.
a partner in me.
Yes.
You understand?
It's nothing to hook onto at
It doesn't.
all.
It doesn't have anything
Yeah.
to hook on.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
But I hope I'm clear with the answer.
I understand what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that doesn't mean at all that I don't go through all that, and that, or if you want to be more correct in language, that all that doesn't go through me.
Yes.
But it doesn't really. Once you have it clear, the order doesn't matter. Yeah. And that's why it's so so fascinating, the process of self discovering. Because once you find the truth, then you are allowed to be a perfect, ordinary human being.
You're allowed to, because you allow yourself to be.
Because you allowed yourself to be. Yes. And that's what I mean by the beginning of compassion starts there.
Yeah.
The beginning of kindness starts in that moment. And then you understand, you realize how much violence there was in you. How much violent was your outlook, in your outlook to the world, let alone in your own inner look of yourself. And so the self-discovering process opens a door, yes, and opens a process in which you stop believing in extremes. For example, the extreme of forever, yeah, for example, or permanency. The extreme of clarity forever, the extreme of big picture permanently. It's an extreme. The extreme of compassion or the extreme of love in a permanent form. You see, you stop believing in impermanent, and you see that the permanent thing is an issue of someone who is in your mind that comes up and is very idealistic, and you recognize him from the back. Even you don't need to look at the face. The forever becomes never.
Let me just get this. So the forever
Yes,
becomes never.
you can see the forever in the never. You understand? You can see an extremist in you. You understand? And that opens up your mind into not dealing with those extremes anymore. And the transformation happens in the way you think. You haven't changed. You're still the same. But now you're free from the extremes. And you realize all the... most of the extreme pain and most of the extreme conflict was perpetuating itself by the way you were thinking about it.
I'm just looking at my notes because you just triggered something there, that something I wrote down, something you wrote. It says, the mind does not, I wrote this down from your notes, the mind does not dissolve a new arrangement, there's a new arrangement of things.
That's right.
That's
what
you're saying.
That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying,
Like,
yes.
it's a new arrangement.
That's what
yeah.
I'm saying. Sometimes you hear saying that when we talk about meditation, yes, which is a natural state of ourselves when we are not concerned with ourselves. But meditation, when we start the process of gaining concentration and learning to put our attention in at one point, we think that it's the absorption of attention in thoughts that prevent us from seeing harmony, if you like. But in reality, what is happening, and this is my perspective, yeah, is that we are absorbed, our attention is absorbed in extreme thoughts. It's not thoughts. It's out of balance thoughts that is the problem.
Yes, yes.
You understand? And
No, I do,
because
yeah.
of that, we dance that sound, we dance that music, we vibrate with that rhythm, we dance in
Yeah.
extremes.
Yeah.
So it's not the absorption in thoughts, it's the absorption in thoughts that are extremes.
It's interesting that the manifesting on the outside of how we as human beings are on the planet, things seem to get more extreme in terms of we have more extreme religions. We
That's
even
right.
have extreme sports now. You know,
Absolutely.
this
Absolutely.
word extreme
Absolutely.
comes
Absolutely.
more and more into our
Absolutely.
vocabulary.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's our duty as human beings to make sure we are not vulnerable, yes, to partake of any form of extremism.
Mm.
Because it's not only the violent ones, but any sort of belief of extremes make us, step away from meeting reality, meeting other people, being efficient in what we do, being able to be quiet, to be silent, being actually part of a peaceful movement. You see, and that's what I was meaning by integration. Once you realize yourself, then you integrate it into a way in which you realize that you are no longer potentially available to partake in any nonsense.
Mm. And there is a lot of nonsense in the world.
And
Yeah.
yes, there is a lot of nonsense in the world, not because it's nonsense in itself, maybe because it hasn't arrived to the very core of itself,
Yeah.
but certainly it doesn't need your input
Yes.
necessarily. Yes.
It's a great little mantra to play with, I guess, on a personal basis. Right. There's no nonsense here today.
Yes, exactly. No nonsense. I mean, when you change identities, yeah? When you're tired of you can change identities. There are so many offers in society for you to become something, part of something, or a group, and you will have some freshness out of it. And you will ignore that the freshness comes out of the swapping. It comes out of the fact that you dislocated from the old identity, and the freshness was in between identities and not in the new one. You understand? So you worship that new identity, and that becomes old again, and you go for another. You see?
Yes.
So once you see that process, you realize that everything is built like that in society. You see, even political manipulation can come from that lack of insight. So I see that we live in a time that is required that we develop ourselves as human in a way that we can see beyond ourselves, and we can be at service for our society in a way that we can. Even when we vote, we are responsible for what we're doing. We are looking for maturity, not for promises. We are looking for someone who has the maturity to be flexible, to be wrong, you see? Because we are flexible with ourselves and we are wrong with ourselves. We make mistakes too.